you all please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Chris, could you call the roll, please?
Mrs. Detzel?
Here.
Mr. Yoshimura?
Here.
Ms. Bradley?
Here.
Mr. Gilbert?
Here.
Mr. Detzel?
Here.
Okay. Do we have a special presentation tonight with criminal justice? Okay.
Clicker's right up here, Chris.
So yeah, my name's Chris Drummond. I've been here a few times, and I'm excited about the new criminal justice program that we're getting ready to hopefully kick off next year. This is a result of basically our dental program is being phased out because of low enrollment numbers, so we were able to add extra part of the program. Over the last 3 years, we've had at least turn away at least 30 to 40 students every year because of the popularity of the program. Forensics obviously is a growing field, and we've all seen in the media the social work and the psychology aspect of criminal justice has also been very prevalent. So as a result, we were trying to want to add a teacher to our program and expand this criminal justice program. So we're very excited about this, and the way it kind of will work is we're looking at the junior year. So we'll try to accept about 50 students for this program for 2 different teachers. Their junior year, every student will be doing the basic police work, the police academy. The 2 teachers will be kind of like team teaching. One may take them out to physical training one day, and have the other group would be in the classroom, and vice versa. So the students are going to get a well-rounded experience all year long. They're not going to be just getting one teacher versus the other teacher. We feel like by doing that, it'll help. A lot of times, if you have 2 of the same exact programs, the students they always want to make a competition. We don't want to make it a competition. We want to make it as much as a teamwork as possible. At the end of the year, they're still going to be able to take all their industry credentials, their NIMS test, which is a National Incident Management Series test. So they'll still be doing that. But then where it kind of switches is at the end of their junior year, they're going to have to kind of choose a path, what they want to choose. They're either going to choose, would I rather do more forensic side, or would I like to do more just the traditional police side? So we still have lots of students that use the criminal justice program for military purposes. So that would be, those students would still be in that the traditional policing side. But we also have a lot of, especially the last couple of years, a lot of females interested in forensics in that science field. And so we're also going to have those students be able to maybe choose, they want to go to more of the forensic side. And then along with that forensic side, they would also have opportunities to learn more about the psychology and sociology aspects of the criminal justice as well. With this expansion, we're also going to take it and make it the senior year 3 periods long. And by doing it for 3 periods, is we're going to be able to have these seniors go out and do field visits. So for example, we had a couple students for 2 weeks over the summer work in the Hamilton courthouse over the summer. But by adding that 3rd period, it allows more flexibility so we can continue doing that all year long to have more students be able to have that opportunity to see what it's like in a courthouse. Jeremiah, who unfortunately couldn't be here tonight, Jeremiah Morgan is the current instructor. He has a sick child, so he was going to be here, but unfortunately couldn't be. But he has lots of contacts already, so we can create some of these ride-along with Colerain Township Police. He has contacts in the Secret Service and the FBI, and in fact, we're going to start a field trip this spring to Washington, D.C. to see the backside of the White House, actually, because of his contacts with the Secret Service. So hopefully we'll just be able to continue all of these different opportunities for kids and add more internships along the way. So kind of the way it's going to work. Do you guys have any questions about?
Real quick on the dental, I know phasing it out because numbers
Sure,
are low. But any kids that are interested in dental can still go out to the bioscience.
100% correct, yes. Mhm. And this year's juniors, we have some students that were in the program. We're going to be able to finish those out for their senior year.
Great.
At the bioscience year next year. And along with this, we've already kind of started looking at some of the spaces for the new criminal justice, kind of looking at the space and expanding that and making a very nice facility for the criminal justice.
Sounds like a really neat program.
Yeah, it's,
A lot of
we're very
opportunities.
excited and very, yeah, exactly.
Awesome.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chris.
Okay, we have our nutrition standard presentation.
Yes, I'd like to introduce Lisa Robeson, who is in charge of our cafeteria and maintenance of our everyday food.
Yes, I'm back again. I come each year to talk about the nutrition standards and guidelines that we have to observe and follow in order to meet the USDA guidelines. And in light of recent national concerns with poor health and childhood obesity, we want to be particularly vigilant about what we serve to students and what we sell to students. And we also need to develop school wellness plans that must include these guidelines and at a minimum meet the USDA guidelines. So at a minimum, this is what our district wellness policy is required to include. It has specific goals for nutrition promotion, education, and physical activity, standards and nutrition guidelines for all foods and beverages sold to students during the school day, and that is down to every individual ketchup packet, mustard packet, everything is regulated. There are also standards for all foods and beverages provided but not sold to students, which includes fundraisers, birthday parties in the classroom, things like that. Policies for food and beverage marketing, and our marketing only allows Smart Snack approved items to be shown to students. And we also need to describe the public involvement in our wellness policy. And it must permit participation by the general public and the school community. It must be available online with all revisions and assessments, and it must be triennially assessed. So there are specific goals for nutrition promotion and physical activity. And this is more in curriculum's arena, but they have quite a broad spectrum of guidelines they need to follow, requiring essential understanding and learning goals for motor skills, movement concepts, physical activity, health enhancing level of fitness, responsible personal and social behavior, and the value of physical activity. And those are specific to each grade band. So as I stated previously, nutrition standards must be met for all food sales during the day. Any food provided for free as a refreshment or in vending machines primarily geared toward teachers are exempt. However, we would obviously like to say that offering these foods is highly recommended and it would meet the nutrition standards, but they are exempt. Also exempt fundraisers, any interscholastic athletic events, or school-related events held outside the regular school day. The regular school day is defined as 30 minutes after the bell rings until midnight. So anything outside of those ranges must meet the guidelines. And as of today, our district's nutrition standards are in alignment with the Alliance for Healthier Generations school beverage and competitive food guidelines. So this is a chart of the guidelines that elementary, middle, and high school students are allowed to consume as far as beverages go. So elementary and middle schools are permitted only to have plain water, milk, or 100% juice. High schools are permitted to have water, flavored milk, 100% juice, mid-calorie beverages, which is like your G2s, Powerades, and 0-calorie or low-calorie beverages. But all beverages have size restrictions except water. We even have size restrictions on juice and milk. We can have more diet pop than we can have juice or milk, per these guidelines. These are the school food guidelines, and the way we figure out whether something is Smart Snack approved, which everything we serve is by entering it into a calculator on the Alliance for Healthier Generation Kids website, and every food must be whole grain rich. It can contain a quarter cup of fruit or vegetable, or it has to have a fruit, vegetable, protein, or dairy product as the first ingredient. If it doesn't, we can't serve it. There are also guidelines on sugar, fat, trans fat, and sodium on every product we sell. So that, in a nutshell, is just a peek into the guidelines set by the USDA. And like I said, Northwest follows all these guidelines. We're in compliance, and everything we serve is in compliance, as well as the wellness policy. Any questions?
So how do you obviously have to have a template to run all of that stuff through there.
We do.
Is it like a monthly revolving? Is it like,
So we are supposed to receive communication from the manufacturers of the products if any of their formulations have changed, and then we can rerun it. Otherwise, we do it at minimum annually. And we do spot checks monthly to make sure that they're only purchasing the allowable items.
Are all the foods offered in the schools prepared, or is there anything made on site?
I would say 50-50. We do have a lot of pre-packaged, especially for breakfast, but we've been getting a lot more requests for scratch cooking, and we've been doing that. We have a program called My Way Cafe, which is made to order, rotating entrees, kind of like a food court. You can do burritos, baked potatoes, pasta, deli sandwiches, burgers, things like that. So that's obviously not pre-packaged, but then we have our pizzas that come in and we put them in the oven, and there's not much we do to that. So about half and half.
Yeah, the reason why I asked, I remember your presentation from before when you said that there was no opportunity for a ranch dressing for the school to have because it didn't meet any of our guidelines.
It has to be served with a fruit or vegetable. They can't
Right.
purchase it. If they decide that they want carrots as their vegetable with their meal, they can have it. Or the ranch with a salad or a wrap. But ranch on its own does not meet it.
So is there a ranch dressing offered in the schools now for
Mhm.
the food?
Yeah. Yeah, as long as it's with an entree or a vegetable,
But they can't have it with something else because of what reasoning?
because it doesn't meet the nutritional regulations. So each salad, I have to figure out the fat, calorie, sodium included with the dressing. And then we have, kind of do the average of what the kids take.
Right.
If a kid wants ranch with their pizza, I've not included that
Right.
in the nutritional calculation, so it would throw off the calories, fat, sodium, everything. So it has to be offered with either carrots or a meal, otherwise they cannot purchase it separately.
So items like ketchup and mustard, how do they get those? Is that,
They have to take it with their meal. Once they exit the door, if they sit down, they cannot have it.
so they, like french fries, they can have ketchup?
Yeah. They get 2 or 3 ketchups with french fries, 2 or 3 ketchups, or barbecue sauce with chicken, things like that. But if they forget it, we are legally not allowed to provide it to them.
And that's fine. But I was saying, is there a ranch option that's prepared that could meet the nutritional guidelines that would fall in the same category like a ketchup or a mustard would?
No. Currently, there's a federal regulation that we cannot sell condiments à la carte. It must go with the meal.
I think we maybe missed it, but go ahead.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. No, it's the same way you're allowed to have like ketchup with the meal. They can take 2 or 3 packets of ketchup, or they can take 2 or 3 packets of mustard or barbecue sauce. And they have some type of nutritional value within that. Isn't there a ranch option that would fit in the same type of nutritional value of a ketchup or barbecue sauce?
Yeah, and we do offer it with
Understood.
certain meals. We just can't offer it daily for them to choose. Did that,
No, but
No.
it's okay. I don't want to beat a dead horse.
does anyone else want to explain what I'm missing? I'm sorry.
It just seems like we have some things are able to, but this may be, it takes a little bit more challenge to make it work. Same way a ketchup and a barbecue sauce does, but it doesn't sound like that. There's a flexibility to make the ranch work like we are making the ketchup and barbecue sauce work.
But we are making the ranch work.
Lisa, I think if someone comes in and wants ketchup with something, like,
Like a salad.
they want ketchup
That
with
they
their
cannot.
carrots.
They cannot
can't
have that.
Because it
It
has to
has-
be, you have to pre-allocate it to that meal.
That's
They can't
absolutely correct.
choose it with anything that you haven't paired it with,
Correct.
for any condiment.
No,
Right.
that's correct.
And that's not your rule, that's federal guidelines?
That's federal guidelines, yes.
So they couldn't get ketchup with salad.
Correct. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I was clearly not getting that. Thank you, Daryl. Any other questions? No?
Thanks, Lisa.
Thanks, Lisa.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, we do not have a legislative
No.
update. Okay, we'll move on to reports from employee organizations. Anything from certificated or licensed personnel? Sorry, did I skip Jim? This is where I always throw it off if I go backwards. Do we have a Butler Tech update?
No, just quick
It's okay, no, no.
presentation.
Is everybody on certificated and licensed? Yes. Because I know sometimes when I do this. Okay. Any reports? Thank you. Any reports from classified? How about reports from school-related organizations? I don't have any requests for community comments, so we'll go right into Todd's part.
All right, the first approval is certificated licensed personnel, certified retirements and resignations. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certified retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved?
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any questions? Okay. Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is classified personnel, classified retirements and resignations. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified retirements and resignations as listed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any questions regarding classified retirements or resignations? Motion passed 5-0.
Good evening. First, I'd like to ask the board to dispense with reading of and approve the November 18th regular meeting minutes as listed.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved in second. Are there any additions or corrections for the meeting minutes for November 18th? Okay. Motion passed 5-0.
like to ask the board to accept, approve, and appropriate the fiscal year 19 carryover restoration grant, federal grants that we received through ODE. One was for $30 and the other was about for $440. With that, I'd like to ask the board to accept, approve, and appropriate those two grants.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions regarding the appropriation? Motion passed 5-0.
Next are then and now certificates for invoices that we've received over $3,000 without a purchase order. We had one for St. Bernard for their intervention specialist with a total of $4,200. With that, I'd like to ask the board to approve these invoices for payment as listed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any questions on the then and now certificates? Okay. Motion passed 5-0.
Finally, the fiscal year 20 appropriation resolution. We approve or update our appropriation resolution quarterly and send to the Hamilton County Budget Commission. This quarter, we did reduce our general fund appropriations by almost $700,000 so that we could squeeze it into our 3% partnership with the community. So now the appropriation resolution agrees to the forecast that the board approved last month. And then the debt service fund has an increase of $32 million, which sounds like a lot, but that was our refunding of bonds. So we had to refund the bonds and put that money into escrow. So we have to accept the revenue and then have the expenditure also in order to pay it into an escrow account to be paid over the life of the bonds. The other changes were mainly due to either revisions from ODE for grants or auxiliary funds, and then also just submitting of new budgets through teams, fundraisers, technical fund, that type of thing. So with that, I'd like to ask the board to approve the appropriation resolution for fiscal year 20 as listed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Are there any questions? Motion passed 5-0.
Thank you.
Next item is a general business item, donations to Northwest Local School District. Colerain High School senior class of 2020 is donating a TV to display all pictures past, present, which will be hanging in the hallway on the first floor of their building. Before I recommend this approval, I want to go back to last board meeting just to make sure we have clarification with the audience. Everybody up here gets the Board of Education agenda released on a Thursday. At the last meeting, Joe had asked a question about a specific thing, and I said, well, this is just a reminder that they do get it on Thursday. Public discussion is this place and time when that should occur on any item up there. So when I say that, it's not to say Joe, Diane, Pam, Mark, Jim cannot say anything. It's just to let everybody know that we have presented this prior to. It has been listed. There was time to look it over, and that public discussion is sometimes necessary for any item on here. So I just want to make that clear. And I know you guys have said that many times, but I think they need to know our side also as we talk about these things. So the superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the donation to the Northwest Local School District as listed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved in second. Any questions?
Yeah, the comment on here, it states that the cost is for the TV, but I think we mentioned that there's more, because it's $9,000 in here, that there's more than that, than a TV that's being donated.
Jack, since you're here.
Yeah, this is part of an archive system. As you know, we have team pictures hanging throughout our hallways all the way back to, I believe, 1927. We had no room, so I say we as if I did a lot of work. Craig and Matt did a lot of the work. There are newer schools that have archive systems. So this TV, actually, we were just saying $5,000 for a TV. It's almost a computer, if you will. And we are in the process of scanning a lot of our team pictures, our academic records. The end result will be, and they're installed now. There's one in the front hallway, one in the back hallway. The remaining cost that you speak of, Ms. Bradley, I believe the athletic department has paid the rest. They bought the other TV and some of the software and whatnot. So what will happen, and some of it's there now, you could walk into our front or back hallway, you could tap the screen, and let's say girls softball is one of the prominent pictures right now. You could tap 1997, tap girls softball, and a picture of the girls softball team from 1997 will come up. It will have academic records, honor society, SUMAs, team pictures, band pictures. We are now in the process of scanning a lot of that stuff in. So the senior class picked up the tab for one of the TVs, and the boosters and the athletic department is funding a lot of the other costs.
So the 9,000 here, what is this for? There's a lot already being purchased.
No, I'm saying the entire system. I don't have the figures in front of me, but I know to get the extra TV was about $5,000, and then the other part is being funded by the athletic department and the boosters.
This donation was a payment from the senior class to pay for what Jack just described.
To reimburse them.
No, they paid it out of their fund. So they're donating that to the school. The senior class had these funds in their fund, and they purchased these items for Colerain High School. And so this is a donation from the senior class to the school.
So what are we voting on?
Just to accept the donation.
We have to accept the donation.
We have to accept all donations by board policy.
I accept donations.
I know, but it seems weird. You're
Any other questions?
saying yes. Something's already occurred.
Okay. Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is vendor contracts. The superintendent and treasurer recommend the Board of Education approve the vendor contracts as listed.
So moved.
Second?
It's moved in second. Questions on vendor contracts?
It's not a question, it's more of a statement. I'll go ahead and tell you my vote beforehand, but I'm gonna explain why. There's an item on here for Battelle for Kids, which is, as I'm understanding it, to help the teachers, the curriculum with their communication or some of that nature. And I will publicly state that I don't agree with the funds. I know they're not coming out of the general funds or whatever, but to spend this money on this item, I think is something that either we already have the skills for it, or we already have, there's other ways to get this for free, or it's something we've already received. So to pay again for it feels like another redundancy. So I'm just clarifying my statement. When you see my vote up there, that's the reason why.
Tad, you want to clarify that?
Yeah. Chris, can you pull up the PowerPoint? All right, so the contract is for Battelle for Kids. It is portrait and strategic planning. So what it provides is survey tools, dialogues and questions out, finds voices that are part of our communication plan that we will go through and has been identified as our pillar. It will tie this portrait of a graduate into what our strategic plan is doing. What we have found through the strategic plan as we went through it last year is we did not have enough participants that we felt we needed. So we went through a variety of ways to engage more folks and bring them to the meetings. As we met, our meetings continued to dwindle lower and lower in numbers, but we were able to come up with a strategic plan based on the feedback we got. So if you go to the next slide, or I guess I can. Battelle for Kids is one of the leading organizations in the United States. Their philosophy is to realize the power and promise of 21st century learning for every student. We are part of their Ed Leadership 21 program. The people they impact that we want to also impact with our school district is 800 plus school districts and other learning organizations, 2,000 innovative educational leaders, impacting the educational experience of 2.2 million students. And in just the past 5 years, they've worked with 1,300 plus school districts, state departments of education, and other education nonprofit organizations. So they have a wealth of resources. Locally, you have Milford, Marymount, Indian Hill, who are also involved and already gone through the portrait of the graduate. The network is tied between 5 and 10% of the top schools in the United States. So a wealth of resources that we can bring in for our school district. What you need to consider of is, in light of how the world is changing, what do we want for our graduates? We can say it's being able to sit down as a third grader, never have a computer at home, but sit down and be expected to take a test and be successful on it. And we can test them out of the world in 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th grade and 10th grade, have end of the course exams, and all we can worry about is test. Or we can prepare our graduates for 21st century skills. Right now, there are jobs that are not even invented for what our current kindergartners will be exposed to when they graduate. So this would help tie in what our community as a whole sees. If you look up here, here's what we have in the past. Student A, we sat at a desk, we faced the front, we usually had an overhead in front of us, we were rolling it, and we learned math, science, English, and social studies. What we would like to get to is student B, content mastery, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, creativity, and other 21st century skills. If you look up any research as to what they want graduates to come with, it has all of these that are listed up there. And that is more than taking a test and bubbling in Scantrons, which it used to be, and they have allowed us to now go back to Scantrons, or sitting down at a test and picking A, B, C, or D as we go forward. 21st century learning is a combination of 21st century skills and rigorous academic content. It is deeper learning. It occurs through purposeful integration of rigorous academics, content with experiences that intentionally cultivate skills, mindsets, and literacies essential for students to become lifelong learners in the 21st century. This is very key to what we want to get to. We want to get to deeper learning. We are using Title IIA funds. Title IIA funds are provided for professional development, including high-quality professional development for teachers, principals, and other school leaders on effective strategies to integrate rigorous academic content, transition to post-secondary education, career and technical education, and work-based learning. We believe the first step in doing this is to work with our school community to clearly define the skill of our graduates and what they need to be successful. So it fits perfectly within the guidelines of what the professional development and use of Title IIA funds are. So that's why we did not want to take it from the general fund like other districts have done. We wanted to take it through grants and opportunities that have been applied to us for our school district. It also looks at authentic vision. It engages all stakeholders. It articulates priorities. This is an example of what a North Star district came up with. This is an example of what their portrait of a graduate aligns organizations, momentum builder, builds coherence. There are about 250 examples on the Battelle for Kids website if you look through them. Here are some more examples of what the end process comes up with. One of the most valuable things that you come up with is the involvement of stakeholders. I don't believe that slide's up here. But it takes an in-depth look at what we've been talking about. It goes back to a little bit of what Diane was talking about at the last meeting, that we are constantly asking for input, but are we truly listening? Are we truly listening, or are we just giving answers because we're trying to defend what we're doing? This allows us to be active participants with our community, with all our stakeholders, so that we can learn with them as we move forward. It provides specific tools that we can use. It goes after the naysayers. It goes after those on social media who maybe don't want to show up to a meeting but have an opinion and want to make sure they express it. So we can go through something where we get 150 or 200 out of 52,000 citizens or 18,000 parents, or we can do it the right way, and that's engage every stakeholder. It's our clergy. It's our local colleges. It's our local businesses who are hiring our kids. And there is a vast difference from what career technical centers are looking for when they're hiring and when they're going out and taking kids and giving them internships compared to what we're doing by sending the kids and hoping that they go straight to a 2-year or 4-year college. It's time that we catch up where everybody else is. It's time that we are allowed to participate in the process, so we are not seen as somebody who's just putting it out, not listening, not taking back the input that we need to listen to and we need to consider. So this process is led and will be completely guided by Battelle for Kids. They are outstanding in what they do for school districts and the success they've had nationwide. And it's a exact use of what the money is designated for. So that's why we're recommending that we have this contract with Battelle for Kids.
So Battelle for Kids is a third-party consulting firm. Is that correct?
They are part of our SOAR connection, so we are already part of SOAR, and they are the people who are connected and who have allowed Ed Leadership to do this process.
So we're paying for a third-party consulting firm to help us engage the community.
And educate our leaders and allow us to be processed. We're talking teachers, our people who are on BLTs and what they're doing with leadership in their buildings, through our literacy learning team, through our administrative team, and through our AO cabinet. Amy, Daryl, Brenda are also on the team, and Dustin, Heidi, anything you guys want to add?
I see this work as giving us direction and curriculum. If our community tells us that something's a priority in terms of our graduates and our businesses and our folks that we are including in this process, we need to then respond to that. And so I see this as an opportunity to really get a better feeling for what it is that our community wants from our graduates versus us just trying to figure it out or just following state guidelines. We want to be more meaningful and purposeful in what we do. And so the professional learning we've already had, Todd and I were up there on Friday listening to recent hires at Battelle in all sorts of fields tell us about the types of skills they need to be successful, what they were prepared well for, what they were not. And so this is a chance for us to really get an understanding that should drive us and guide us, at least in the curriculum office for sure.
So I said, in summary, it's a separate, third-party consultant. We're paying them to tell us what the community is coming to us for free. So that's where my decision is coming from. So.
Does anybody else have any questions?
Thanks, Chris.
Motion passed 4-1.
All right, the next item is certificated licensed personnel items. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the certificated licensed personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second?
Moved and seconded. Questions? Okay. Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is classified personnel. Classified personnel items. The superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the classified personnel items as listed.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions on classified? Motion passed 5-0.
Next item is student services. Colerain High School swim team extended field trip. The Colerain High School Athletic Department is requesting permission to take the swim team to Canton, Ohio, December 20th and 21st to provide swimmers a competition in the state meet pool. No school days will be missed. Superintendent recommends the Board of Education approve the extended field trip as listed.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Questions? Want to wish the team good luck up there. Motion passed 5-0.
The next item is a miscellaneous item. It is for information only. It is proposal for 2020 Board of Education meetings. It was attached. I've made changes that, from the feedback that some of you have given to me with dates we needed to change. January 8th is our organizational meeting. That is a Wednesday because some folks are out of town, so we will start on that Wednesday, the 8th. If that works for everyone, I've not heard differently. And then our first work session is January 22nd on a Wednesday. And then we go down with our monthly meetings, another work session on February 19th. We will add work sessions as we go. You have a total of 21 meetings. We will get to our 24 meetings easily. It's just going through and see what legislative changes and things we need discussion, work sessions, or approvals will need to happen. So I have from now till January 8th to make any adjustments based on your calendar. Or if you know some now, I'd be glad to take notes and mark them down.
We have a conflict on February 19th.
Okay? Does the 18th work for everyone?
It's above our tax
20th, a Thursday.
That's good.
Yeah.
Can we talk about that Butler Tech meeting right now? Or do
Anything that's on the calendar you can talk about. Yep.
Okay, I'm just asking other board members to reconsider the site of the Butler Tech board meeting. I've been approached by many voters in the district that they said that the location of this meeting is absurd. In the last meeting this year, 2 teachers, 2 students showed up. This meeting should be at the convenience of the concerned parents, building administrators, teachers, etc. So I'm asking the board to negate the Butler Tech board meeting.
Joe, this we were talking about is the regular Butler Tech meeting, not us.
Yes, not the,
Yeah, no, she didn't.
anything else, but just that meeting.
I think he's talking about October 5th.
October 5th, yeah.
I don't know how everybody feels. I'll just personally say, one meeting out of the whole year, and we had, probably as many or half as many as we have here tonight. It's not like that we normally have all these seats filled, and then we go somewhere else and we don't have anybody. I think it's an opportunity when we have as many students that attend Butler Tech classes that we do, it gives an opportunity not only for the parents and people at home that are watching to see the different facilities, but quite honestly, it gives the board one time a year to get to see the facilities too. So if somebody's asking, you can feel comfortable to say, what the different things are. You know what the bioscience building is, or you know what the D. Russell Lee is. That's just my opinion.
I concur with Joe. Actually, I think the Butler Tech meetings are a waste of time. Driving out there, like I said, for 1 or 2 members, we have more than 1 or 2 that show here. We don't have any additional members that are coming to the Butler Tech location because we're at Butler Tech. So again, my comment would be, I concur with Joe, that there's no need to have a meeting at Butler Tech.
I guess my comment's in the middle. I think depending on what's going on at that time in our district, if something come up and we needed to be here because we need voter input, voter feedback, then it may be required that we do it here because of the transport. But there's also an aspect, I agree with Pam, that we are certainly in a partnership with Butler Tech. And I think one meeting a year is okay, as long as it strategically fits in where we're at with the business. Like, I'll say the last one may not have been a good time to go to Butler Tech because we were in the middle of a levy campaign and a lot of the people just won't drive out there. Now, I'm not saying that in hindsight, or I'm not bashing anybody about that. I'm just saying that's something that, we had no idea how fervent that was going to be at the time. So I say, we strategically put it on the agenda and then play it by ear by what's going on. If we need to change it, we certainly go through the guidelines of changing it if we need to. If we don't, then there's no reason to change it.
I'm just concerned about the people in the district who come to these meetings regularly, and then when they find out that there's a meeting at Butler Tech, they think it's crazy, because if they, why should the board meeting move all the way out there when it's convenient for them to come here and voice their opinions?
Well,
Daryl?
Let me go. Look, I started this about 7 or 8 years ago because when we joined Butler Tech, to get our community familiar with. It's for the board and any of the community wants to go out, check out the facility, see what your kid's getting into. From 7th grade through 12th grade, I think 2/3 of our students in our district are taking some type of Butler Tech class, of some sort. So it's one night to drive out there, to see the facility, if you haven't seen the facilities, to see what our kids are looking at. And quite frankly, we've got some great facilities that our kids have the opportunity to use. I don't think it hurts for one. We film it, so if there's somebody that doesn't want to drive out there on that particular night, once a year, can watch it on the TV through the Warner Access or the TV. But I think I think all it can do is help our community and our kids see what Butler Tech is all about.
So even further, with it being just one meeting, again, we and the students don't have this time to expend to something extra. If you want to have a separate Butler Tech campus activity, feel free to arrange that. But as far as like a specific board meeting that is regular, I would keep the board meetings at the administrative office. And also I want to talk about the time on one of these, July 13th at 7:30 a.m. for the board meeting. We can talk about that separate, but as far as the location, I know the year prior, this past year, we had, 5, 10 people in the audience at the Bartlett Tech meeting, largely due to the fact that it was discussing about the levy. But the year prior, there was no more than two. People went, there was no levy or anything like that. So to have, this meeting likely will be the same scenario. We have 1 or 2, and honestly, I want to say there were 0 people at the Butler Tech meeting the year prior, so in 2018, that were not administrative or board members. I really want to say there's 0, but I would say that there were no more than 2. So to have a meeting on here for 2 people to go to Butler Tech because we want to have a FaceTime with them, I think is a waste of time. And even one meeting is a waste. If you want to have a special thing for the community to come to Butler Tech, go for it. But as far as like official business administration, I would definitely disagree to having even one meeting at Butler Tech.
Well, I disagree with you. I just think it's important for the community. I mean,
Is
I
there,
think, wait a minute, let me finish. I think White Oak Middle School, they just had, 250 kids go out there for their days. So what's wrong with going out there once a year to do a board meeting? And you can get a tour of the facility so you know what you're dealing with when somebody in the community, questions you, hey, well, what do you know about the bioscience? Have you been out there? Well, no, I haven't been out there. I'm a board member, but I know I haven't been out there. Well, that's the idea, to get out there, and we rotate them. So I don't know. I don't think it's that big a deal to drive out there once a year to do a board meeting.
Have a separate meeting to this.
couldn't we just have an informal gathering of parents or concerned people in the district to go out there and get some kind of visit to all these departments or presentations out there without having a board meeting out there?
Well,
I think it's absurd.
I don't agree with you, Joe. I don't think it's absurd because of the amount of our kids that are involved with going out there and going to these facilities.
I'm
I
talking,
don't think there's one thing wrong
I
with
haven't
board members
finished.
going out there for one board meeting.
I haven't finished. The whole point of having the board meetings here are to get the people of the district involved. When we had the meeting out at Butler Tech this year, 2 teachers showed up and they had presentations.
The kids came.
I was getting to that.
Well, I can see her from back there. So.
Two students came, and that was it. Okay? So if we can work out a situation where the AO and board members and parents of these kids, of these specialized programs out there, can go out there, not as an official board meeting, but just as a visit for the place, I'd be all in favor of that.
Can I offer, it's not my meeting, but if I could offer a solution, maybe in November, put a work session and it be around Butler Tech opportunities, because we're still begging for kids to enter machining and get in those type of programs, even though it is housed at Corrigan High School, and then take tours of maybe more than one facility while we're up there that night instead of just going to one. Just as a possibility. It's up to you guys.
Well, a couple things. One, to what Mark said, I don't think we've ever been a real stickler of, I agree. I honestly think we shouldn't have had it in October when we had it. But, I think any time during the year, I think, as long as Butler Tech has a little bit of notice.
They don't care what month
They
you
don't
have
care
it.
when we go. But as far as the tours and stuff, they're willing to do any of that. But we just had the showcase out there, and that was the whole thing. we had all our students, I know we had administrators from the different buildings who the students were excited and wanted, and invited them to come out, and, not all the board members could come to that. So, I think it's important if you're a board member that you're familiar with, I mean, the only way to be familiar with the programs and the facilities is if you either take the time to go out or you do something like this. It's hard to say how many people are watching. I mean, maybe this is something with all the different focus groups and different things that Todd's doing that, you know, we get more feedback from other people, but I just, I know it might be inconvenient for some, but when we have, and if we were a school district that only had 20 or 30 kids involved, but Daryl, do you know a number? How many students we have in Butler Tech programs?
Total, off-site and on-site, do you remember? I can pull it.
Amy or Brenda might
Just a
have it.
guess.
I can pull it up from our enrollment report.
I don't need an exact amount.
Right up.
There's about
Very programmatic.
250 at Colerain and about 130 at Northwest that travel off-site for programs. And our own building's a lot more.
Let me pull it up.
So our comment is not about disassociating ourselves from Butler Tech and ending the program. That's not what the comments here is about the location of the meeting. That's it. We can go and visit and have some kind of session, but official board meeting at Butler Tech, my opinion, and Joe can say as he wants, is a waste of time. After a board meeting, there's no participation. If we were going to Butler Tech and there were members showing up there, fine, you would hear no comments. But in 2018, 2 members
But to be honest,
were there.
you had suggested, and I agreed with you, that we needed to take our meetings to the buildings to make it more convenient for parents. And we went to Pleasant Run, we went to Struble, we went to all these places, and we didn't get anybody at those meetings.
Oh, no,
We were in,
that's not true.
how many did we have at the Struble meeting? 1, 2,
More than
maybe
2.
4? I don't know. If you take away the administrators that are sitting back there. I mean, it was disappointing because, and I get it, I mean, I agreed with you that it'd be easier as a parent when you're running all around to run back up to your local school for a board meeting, but we tried that and we didn't get any more participation than we get. So I don't know, I mean, I don't think this is anything that absolutely has to be decided right now. I think when I mentioned the Butler Tech meeting, I wasn't even
know.
talking about ours.
Yeah, we know that. We already had planned to talk about this.
Okay.
So the, Pleasant Run and Struble, there were way more than 2 people that showed up at those. There was not,
Many.
I mean, we bring back to say, but definitely not 2. And I'm even saying 2, I really want to say 0, because at Butler Tech, if I'm not mistaken, in 2018, there were 0 members who were not administration, who were not board members at the 2018 Butler Tech meeting.
So
As
we
for-
increased this year.
because of the levy. So people were there for a presentation in support of the levy. When the last meeting right before the levy is why they were at the 2019 Butler Tech meeting. But outside of the levy, I think you still be at 2 or 0 at the 2019 had a levy not been on the ballot. It was the last meeting before the levy. So it's just a waste of time. Have the meetings here, have a special presentation. I mean, that would be a compromise. You want to come see Butler Tech, have a come Butler Tech meeting.
All that does is gives you another night that you have, if you have a special night, hey, come on out and visit. Try to just do a board meeting so the board members can see the facility, so you don't have a second night that you have to go out there. That's all it was intended for. There's no, I mean, you know, no conspiracy or anything. That's all it was intended for, is to get the board members to the facility at Butler Tech. And that's why we rotate them around, so we can go get a tour, see what it's all about, what our kids are, you know, have the opportunity to do.
But it might
So
be a good,
If we want to
the
look
work
at it after
session.
the first of the year and vote on it, great, then let's just do it.
I think, I mean, that could be a solution, a work session, and then it's not a board meeting. But, I mean, again, this is for information only, and like I said, I just brought up that the third Tuesday is their normal
And we
meeting.
have 790 students who are in Butler Tech programs either on or off campus.
But see, I do think that matters, Diane. There's 790 students that are in. That's a lot of students that, and again, I have no way of knowing who's watching, who isn't, but as us representing the entire district, 790 students, I mean, I just think one night to if nothing else, to make us more comfortable of the facility so that we can share that with parents and community members and whatever. It's just to support the programs, but it's definitely can be up for discussion. I don't think it's,
My reasoning for saying the number of Butler Tech students is irrelevant is because they're not coming to the meetings. If they were coming to the meeting at Butler Tech, it would be relevant. But if we had 1,000, 2,000 Butler Tech students in the program, they're not coming to this meeting that occurs. So why are we taking the time to go all the way out to Butler Tech and have 2 people show up? 790, 800, 2,000. That's why I'm saying I'm saying loud and clear, the numbers are relevant of how many students are in Butler Tech
And I
to
guess I would-
justify having the meeting at Butler Tech.
and I guess I'd feel more strong with you, agree with you more, is if we looked out in the audience and the chairs were all full at the meetings we have here.
Can I say something?
Not during this, at the end.
Well, I agree with Todd. Maybe we should just have the Butler Tech meeting as a work session up there.
That's, I mean.
Instead of a regular business meeting, because in the regular business meeting, we expect the folks to come from the district. It's it's more convenient for them to show up at these meetings.
Yeah, it definitely seems like we can figure something out.
Work on that.
It's also, before we go further, I had a comment about the time as well, the 7:30 a.m. on July 13th. But that's not a time that's conducive to many members who are showing up to come to the meeting. So I would ask the board to reconsider the timing of the July 13th meeting.
Right, and I can give you the history on that. It's been that way for a long time. July 10th is the magic guideline in the state of Ohio, according to ORC, when you can resign. After that, district does not have to allow you out of their contract. We have our attorneys here that can verify that. And so we have the first day after the 10th so that we can hire the employees immediately and not lose them to other districts. So doing 7:30 a.m., it is personnel only for certified and classified and has no other board agenda items on it. That's why it's been put there. We want to make sure that they can let their other district know, I've accepted a job at Northwest. Otherwise, the other district is on hold, and it does the same to us. So if we don't have it early that day, then they can't move on positions they have, and we can't either. So that's why.
Can we table this 16-1?
It's just information.
It's just information
It's
only.
just information.
Yes.
Until we get clarification, maybe we should put out some kind of questionnaire for all the people who are involved with the meetings and stuff to vote, if this is acceptable to them or not acceptable. So this is not a voting,
Oh, no, it's not
Okay.
voting. It's just to go.
well, I think that we should just put that questionnaire out there to them and just say, hey, look,
I mean, that's something we can make sure it's on the agenda for that work session to at least talk
Yeah,
about it.
sure.
I mean, we have all year to come up with a solution.
I'll get with Lindsay and see what we can do for finding feedback on the website.
thank you.
I'm trying to find it. Okay. Anything else on that? All right, thank you. All right, Business Advisory Council update. Just wanted to go over this real quick as my computer spins. There we go. Just to let you know, we continue to partner with Butler Tech, but we are also partnered with Scarlet Oaks because they each help participate with our Business Advisory Counselor. Butler Tech provides programs on and off campus for our students. Our Business Council is tied to Scarlet Oaks as they are in Hamilton County. I have to bring this up. I know we've talked about Butler Tech a lot tonight, but the purpose is we're required to talk about our Business Advisory Council. I just want to reinforce to the board how important these business partners are. These are folks that will come and work with the kids in the evening from 4 to 6, 7, or 8. Most of the time bring pizza with them for the kids, whether it's Peter Clark's class or some other type of class. And not only do they work with them and help them improve their skill and their trade, but they also are looking to hire them as soon as they get out of high school sometimes. So this is a very valuable partnership. It's a lot of movers and shakers who run district companies in our community, so it's very important for that piece. Also, this is recruiting season for Butler Tech and Scarlet Oaks, and as they take on tours, as they take on students there, recruiting sophomores, I believe that besides 8th graders at the 3 middle schools, we also have the sophomores and freshmen going through tours and getting exposed to the program. So then, if you have a son or daughter who's interested in a program, look for the applications to start coming home. Make sure the applications are filled out and returned in a timely manner. Some of the programs are very competitive, and so the application gets them in that process. So I just want to bring that to everyone's attention. Okay, my superintendent's update is Ed Choice. So Chris, could you put that PowerPoint up there if you would, please? All right, so there's been a lot of talk about Ed Choice and a lot that's going around. Some of the information is factual, and some of it is not. So what I want to do is go around the factual information of what's going on in the state of Ohio, and most importantly, how it's affecting Northwest High School, or Northwest Local School District. So there is an Ed Choice Scholarship. The program provides students from underperforming public schools the opportunity to attend participating private schools. The program also provides low-income students who are entering kindergarten through 6th grade the same opportunity. The program provides up to 60,000 Ed Choice scholarships to eligible students. We happen to be one of the 430 districts out of 608 and one of the 1,200 schools in the state of Ohio who qualify for Ed Choice. How do you qualify for Ed Choice? First of all, you can get in through performance. The school received a performance index grade of a D or F and a value-added overall grade of D or F on the 2014 report card, or the school received an overall grade of D or F on the value-added report card for 2018-2019. If you will notice, there is a gap in there. And they changed the state test so much in 15, 16, and 17 that they provided safe harbor, which means those years' scores cannot count against any school. So you're going all the way back to 14, taking 3 years off, doesn't matter what they did, doesn't matter what they did in 18 and 19, and that's how they're being chosen for performance. So what is performance index? This is what we use as a district to see what improvements we're making. First of all, students are given points based on how they scored on the state test. For example, if you score an Advanced Plus, we get 1.3 for that student. If they score Advanced, we get 1.2 for that student. If they score Accelerated, we get 1.1 for that student. If they get a Proficient score, they get a 1.0. If they get a Basic score, they get a 0.6. And a Limited score gives a school of a 0.3. If kids go untested, it's 0 points. That is very difficult for our schools to keep up with. You have to run them down wherever they are, a hospital. If they're a runaway from home, you got to try to find where they are, transport them in. If kids are spending time in juvenile or adult jail, you have to run them down there and you have to bring them back to test where it counts as 0 points. So you would lose 1.3 if you don't test them. I would say that our schools in our district do an excellent job of making sure we have few, if any, untested students. So the performance index points are divided by the maximum points possible, which is 120, to determine the percentage used to calculate the grade in each scale. So why is this important? This measures every kid that's tested in our school district. So it's our gifted kids going from Accelerated to Advanced, or Advanced to Advanced Plus. Our non-reading limited kids going from Limited to Basic. It shows growth for every kid no matter what your ability level is. That's why performance index is a pretty good reader in terms of determining if we're moving forward or not. 90 to 100 is an A, 80 to 89 is a B, 70 to 79 is C, 50 to 69 is a D. Remember, it's divided by 120, not 100. What is value added, which is the other part of performance? It measures how groups of students made progress as compared to the statewide expectation of growth. A grade of C represents expected growth, 1 year's growth in 1 year's time. So these are the assorted groups that we are measured against. It is African American, it is white, it is students with disabilities, it is ESL. Anything I'm missing? English as a second language, now that we have a pool in the state of Ohio is a testing pool of 30 students. Graduation is a simple way to get into it. The school serves grades 9 through 12 and received a graduation grade of D or F on any 2 report cards. Literacy. The school received a grade of D or F for improving at-risk K through 3 readers on any 2 report cards from 2014, 2018, and 2019. Improving at-risk K through 3 readers compares results from the 2 assessments, a reading diagnostic given to all students in kindergarten through grade 3 at the beginning of the school year, and Ohio State 3rd grade English language arts test given to students in grade 3 twice during the school year. The lowest 10%. The school ranked in the lowest 10% of public school buildings. This is another way to qualify. None of our schools qualified this way. So which schools qualified and how? Colerain Elementary qualified based on literacy scores. Montford Height Elementary got into Ed Choice because of performance scores based on progress and value-added scores. Struble Elementary, literacy scores. But part of Struble's issue is they combine schools with Weigel. So the Weigel 3rd grade report card is what put Struble into Ed Choice. Taylor Elementary, literacy score. Pleasant Run Middle School, overall report card grade for 17-18, 18-19. And Colerain High School, performance scores for overall grade 17-18 and value added. This will be on the website. If you click the blue areas below each, you can go directly to the report card and it shows the data for the school. What is Northwest Local School District doing to address student achievement? Northwest Local School District has many initiatives underway to improve the achievement. First of all, creating a learning experience that is rigorous and engaging for all students, not just some, all. And that comes down from your low-performing students all the way up to your gifted students, because there are as many complaints with parents of gifted students as there are with the lower scoring students. We are responsible for all students, not just one group or another. Raising academic achievement across state and district measures of success through a relentless focus on literacy, reading, writing, listening, speaking, thinking, and viewing. Facilitating student ownership of learning through personalized and differentiated instruction. Differentiated instruction in that we're not standing at the front of the room like we showed there with Classroom A, where we have something on the projector and we're just rolling through it and we're taking notes and then we have a test every week. Brenda, do you want to go over some of the other things that are going on with improved classroom instruction through teacher professional learning and coaching?
We talked a lot about this at the last presentation of the work that's happening in the curriculum department, but there are a lot of great things happening in our classrooms. I have the pleasure of getting into the classrooms and seeing that, working with our administration, and they're getting into the classrooms and seeing that. It is a process, and so this year we've been heavily focused on developing our teachers through rich quality professional learning experiences. The district literacy leadership team that you've heard a lot about in the last 2 years really has been designing professional learning opportunities and experiences on those professional learning days that we have dedicated for that purpose with our teachers, have really been planning and rolling out some high quality professional learning so that we can grow in that area. We know that if our teachers are engaged and excited about learning, that transfers into the classroom. If we don't get that right, we're going to continue to struggle with student achievement, and our teachers also need to make sure they're using the very best practices possible, and so we've focused a lot on instructional strategies. So this list has many of the things that are happening and have been happening starting last year and into this year, but we definitely have work to do. I've said that all along, and so this is kind of where we're at. We want to continue to keep you informed about the work we're doing.
I think some of what people have asked for is, Todd, we keep sugarcoating things we put out. Well, we celebrate successes. And I can tell you, if you look at our scores where we took over 4 years ago, certain areas you have improvements, certain areas you don't. But you can't go from 50 to 80 in 1 year. You can't go from 50 to 80% in 2 or 3 years. It takes time. The average gain is 3 to 5% a year is what we're looking for. We're trying to improve our performance index. Excuses are excuses. We don't have any as we sit in front of you. we made or created 3 new elementary schools. We went from 7 to 5. When you move staff to all 5 schools and they're with new staff, it takes time to adjust. If you look at all the issues we had last year with just the structure and the functioning of the school compared to this year, it is 1,000 times better. But it still takes time for teachers to get involved with each other, learn their grade level teams, and have the courage to develop the leadership skills within each grade level team. On top of that, we're a transient district, whether you want us to be or not. 18 to 19% of our kids turn over every year. So if you take a school of 1,000, 180 to 200 kids are new every year. 180 to 200 kids who we're responsible for. Doesn't matter if they moved into our high school as a 17-year-old and have 2 credits to their name. Doesn't matter whatsoever. That's what we're dealing with. You talk about that K through 3 literacy. That is so biased and so unjust. They're comparing our K through 3 literacy with kids who go to preschool as 3 and 4-year-olds and then are getting help and assistance through other manners, but we're expected to be the same. When I think if you look at our total enrollment in preschool, it's nowhere near the amount of kindergartners we're getting on a daily basis. That's why I'm at Northwest. I love that challenge. And if people will say, well, you need somebody who knows what they're doing. Go look at Jane Hoop Elementary report cards when I was principal there. Go look at Brenda's when she was principal of her elementary school. We know exactly what we're doing. We went from the lowest to the highest. Northwest High School had 102 PI when I left there. We went from the lowest to the highest. We know what we're doing, but it takes time. We're not trying to hide anything. Our report cards are online. Go see them anytime you want to. If you go and click, and the reason I put this out here, and Lindsay will put it on the website tomorrow, is so you can click under the school and see exactly what's going on there. But you know what? We got to keep and retain good teachers also. We can't have turnover. If you don't pay teachers or things happen out in the community, like we had happen in Northwest High School a couple weeks ago, there's fear that's out there. And that's something we have to tell our teachers. We've made improvements, we've made changes. We took that day, that Tuesday before Thanksgiving, to reassure them that their safety and our students' safety is our #1 concern. And you know what? We got bashed for that. It wasn't to take another day off school. It was to make sure we do things better, we do them more consistently, because I can tell you this, a teacher can't teach if they don't feel safe. A student can't go to school and learn if they don't feel safe. So we have all these things that are playing together, but we are seeing positive progress as we move forward. We have the right systems in place. We have things that are going to get us out of Ed Choice. And I'm not going to lie to you. Next year, more of our schools will be in Ed Choice unless the state makes some major changes. Because they've got a graphic that the state shows, not just Northwest, several districts. So this, and I'll go into this, I want to own what we're doing, and it is my job as a superintendent to make sure my OO cabinet is getting the job done. And then in turn, they are making sure the building principals are getting jobs done. And I can tell you none of our principals are happy with their scores. And I can tell you our teachers aren't either. And they're working very hard, they're working collaboratively, they're communicating, they're going outside their box, they're learning new teaching styles, new forms of instruction. Because if you think about it, everything you learned in student teaching is Class A. It was sitting at a desk and it all depended on the student teacher who you were teaching under. If they didn't have it, you didn't get it. So it takes time for us to train them and develop them. We have to keep them, and then we can move our district forward as we go. So this is what we have for Ed Choice, but there is a lot more that we do on top of that. We are doing tiered intervention at our elementaries, literacy and math. We have applied reading and math at our middle schools. It's a double hit, so it's double hitting reading and math, trying to get them caught up where they need to be. It's an academic support bell for students with disabilities, so not only do they go through their core instruction, they get an academic support bell to assist them also. Middle school added a second bell of ELA and math for resource room students. Middle school enrichment, remediation for all students, nighttime, after school tutoring at our elementary and middle schools. So we have different opportunities to engage students in different ways, but we're looking at school climate, positive behavior intervention. Suspending kids isn't the answer. We're dealing with a lot of questions, and next year it's supposed to be where K through 3 It takes a lot to suspend a kid for any reason. But those of you who work in our schools and go in our schools, you know that some of our kindergartners, first graders, and little second graders are coming to school with a lot of issues that it takes a lot of emotional and social support to get them where they need to be. We got to make sure that doesn't take a time away from our administration and time from our teachers so they can do what they were hired to do, is teach. So we're trying to create thriving learning communities, and we're making the changes that we need to do to move forward. So that's the information about our district on Ed Choice. I'll open up the questions before I talk about all the issues with Ed Choice.
I have a question. I think we talked about this before, Todd. At the state level, do we have a lobby group to pressure the people making the decisions to readjust or reevaluate the formula for the Ed Choice?
Yes, that's exactly what I'm going over next. So
Okay.
I can start now or answer you guys' questions first.
We'll come back.
Yeah, I'm good.
Brenda, probably you would be the person to answer this. The tiered intervention, can you speak a little bit more on what that entails?
Sure, so at the elementary level, we have, when we say tiers, we think about all of our students in terms of their academic needs and their behavioral needs. So typically, we've used a cone to kind of represent that, where ideally in an effective school system, you'd have 80 to 85% of your students being successful with just core instruction, what happens in the classroom every day, and the school positive behavior intervention supports that are in place for all kids. The next tier is like 10 to 15% kids who need some support. Oftentimes that intervention is provided in the classroom. Sometimes that intervention is provided outside. And then that top, this is the way the cone should look, right? The top is anywhere from 5 to 10% of students that really need what we call tier 3 or top level intervention. So that's where the word tiered comes from. So at the elementary schools, we're using highly researched direct instruction programs. So we're using reading mastery, corrective reading, and students are receiving that intervention outside of their classroom. So there's a period in their day where they're scheduled into a 30 to 45-minute bell, receiving very intensive tiered intervention. That's what that term is meaning in those classrooms. We're still working on we do not have a specific program at the middle school. We just actually met with our applied reading teachers and laid out a very tight structure and pacing guide for what we want them to be working on, focusing on like 4 to 5 standards instead of trying to just help with homework or do a little bit of everything, being very targeted so that we can see results in those areas on our state assessments. And then at high school, we also have that double hit where students are receiving additional support. So that's what that is referring to, that term.
So what is it that you're planning to do in the future? Like, you explain what tiered intervention is, but what is going to be different in the 20 to 21 year than has been in the past?
The biggest thing is that Dr. Kessling and I are focusing on core instruction. We believe our cone doesn't look anything like what I described, right? So we have students, I believe at one point in elementary school a couple years ago, we had almost 1,000 kids in tier 3 intervention, which that's crazy, it's not sustainable, it's a huge suck on resources. And so what we believe is we've got to get our first instruction right, so we have less students who require that intensive intervention. So that's what all of this professional learning about instructional strategies and research-based strategies in the classroom is about. So we believe that that's the approach we're taking to try to get it right, while still not dropping the ball with kids who are already behind and need some support. So a healthy system has both parts, but the core instruction, until you get that cone, we call it right side up, and we get more kids who are successful with what we're doing just in the classroom, it's like putting Band-Aids on, and it's very chaotic. And so that's where our focus is as a curriculum department, and that's what we've passed on to our building principals as well.
And then this is a whole different topic, the comment, I know, Todd, you probably heard a lot of things on why, issues with the school being closed the Tuesday before Thanksgiving, November 26th. I think some of the angst came from this, a term where you hear like, if you stay ready, you don't have to get ready. So from the community is that, why do we have to shut down the school altogether to do all this extra preparation for this incident happen? We were under the impression that the school and the staff and the administration has their training already for a situation like this to occur, and they're ready to take action for this. how it was presented to the community is more that on Tuesday, we need to do some type of reevaluation, calibration, reworking. Right now, right when it happened, it's just like, well, it sounded like we're prepared or we're ready for that type of situation. So I think that's where some of the angst came
Gotcha.
from, why the whole entire system had to shut down for something that we should be ready for if it happens.
And I think we truly were, and I applaud Northwest for the job they did. We've revisited several times, but there's always something you can learn from and get better at. So once that does occur, we had a lot of scared staff, we had a lot of scared students, and it was time to revisit and make sure that they don't forget what their training is. It happens on a yearly basis, like you said, yes.
So that's, I was just,
Sure.
you're like, why was the community, it sounded like we got backlash, we got pushback from that. I was just trying to give some
Sure.
more feedback on why there was. It wasn't that, oh, this is a horrible, terrible thing. We're like, as a parent, now we have to redo our schedule. It's like something that you should have been ready for. Why do I have to redo my whole entire schedule to cover that day for this type of activity?
Mhm. So, if it's okay, I'm gonna move on to Joe's point. And this is for everybody sitting out here. They are only 5 people, another 5 over here. This is about what's happening to public education. So, I would like you to know that we were the first district that put out a letter to our parents about Ed Choice, explaining to them and letting them know what schools were on the list. Since then, I've been appointed to a steering committee by BASA. It is a combination of our School Board Association, which all 5 belong to, BASA, a lot of our administrators belong to, and OFT, Ohio Federation of Teachers. And so what we have found out is that there was some deals made behind closed doors at the last hour before House Bill 166 was passed. And it basically came down to, if you give me this, I'll give you that, referring to Governor DeWine's social emotional funds, and through Senator Huffman getting Ed Choice. So several things occurred here. First of all, last year we had 1 school in Ed Choice. It was Struble Elementary. You had to attend our school in order to get that scholarship. 17 kids applied for it and 17 got it. They changed the rules this year. They now included high school. And to get the high school scholarship, you never have to set foot in our doors. So now the state is taking our funding to pay for students who have never been in Northwest local schools. Now, one of the great things about our district is we have great school choice. We have good parochial schools, we have public schools. We have schools more so than anybody else probably in Southwest Ohio. But when they did this, it's $6,000 per high school students. It's $4,650 for a K through 8. We have McCauley and we have LaSalle, and that alone is going to be around 500 students. Then you add in the other high schools, Ursuline, Southern Ursula, Moeller, St. X, Roger Bacon, any of the other high schools, Baden. We're going to be close to around 600. So we've gone to our community and worked very hard and passed the levy by 600 votes for a 7.5 mil levy. And now, if things don't change, we're looking at an additional $3.4 to $4.4 million a year to pay out for kids to go to private schools who have never stepped foot in our school district. So Joe asked, do we have lobbyists? Oh, we have lobbyists, and we are working very hard. So here's what our lobbyists found out, and I will give this to any of you if you want to see it, but I'm just reading from it. Legislators were very aware that House Bill 166 was going to be passed, but they were not aware of the consequences, is what we're being told. ODE is not exactly sure that they are distributing the funds correctly or have interpreted the law correctly. We asked about, should we file a lawsuit, Joe? Should the schools in the state of Ohio do that? The fear there is you file a lawsuit, the legislators will wash their hands of it and say, let the courts decide. Well, that could be 2 years down the road. That doesn't help us. We have a lobbyist who talked to Huffman just 3 days ago. He is very in favor of doing something different. His statements were, this is not how I saw this occurring. I did not expect public schools to lose funding to pay for parochial schools. Now, I also get it that I have staff that when we presented this to them, they have kids in parochial schools and they've been paying taxes for years. Do they feel fair that getting that 6,000? Well, they probably do. That's not my complaint. Not complaining about parochial parents, not complaining about our parochial schools. We have outstanding ones in this district. But when you are taking a 7.5 mil that we just got our community to vote on, and you are now saying that we must fund other kids' education that we never budgeted for, we never planned for, we never had them step foot in our building, that is not fair. Now, this is not schools around us, but from our meeting last Thursday in Columbus, we were told that private schools up north are starting auxiliary schools. And that's where these Ed Choice kids will go. Well, Ed Choice kid. So you were supposed to make Ed Choice because schools were failing. Well, let me read you some statistics. In 1819, when the law was what it is, there was 238 buildings. In 1920, this year there's 500. Next year there will be 1,227 schools because of the game that was played with changing the law. 433 out of 612 districts. A breakdown of grades of the schools that are in Ed Choice. 3 of them got an A. 136 got a B. 443 got a C. I'm sorry, but through my raising, and I think pretty much with some of you who also graduated from this district or close by, an A, B, or C is an average grade and it is passing, and it doesn't mean you're failing kids. I got into college with a lot of C's. 139 out of the 1,227 schools, or 11%, received an A. How did the schools qualify? Well, 200 schools met the K through 3 literacy, 48 met the progress trigger, 41 met the lowest 10% trigger, and 29 met the graduation trigger, the ways that I explained to you up there. That's just for this year. Remember, this year it's 500. Next year it's 1,227 schools. So, with that being said, we asked Senator Lehner about it at the Board of Education meeting. And she was shocked. She goes, oh, I had no idea that this is what we were voting on and this is what was going to occur. And I talked to Lou Blessing, who lives in our district, he's very active in our district. And Lou's like, Todd, I know we have a problem. We've got to fix this. Even Bill Seitz, who sometimes can be a little angry, realizes there is a problem and realizes there need to be a fix. So what I need is help from everyone in this room and from our parents at home on the TV. So tomorrow, what we will send out is a list of legislators that we would like you to call. And if you're not comfortable calling, we would like you to email them. Because if we don't, within a 2-year period or shorter, depending on what they do, then we have to look at another levy because this funding is unconstitutional in my mind. We are taking levy taxpayers' money and paying for a private education. How can they take money from our budget to supplement? I mean, you're basically trying to destroy public education is what it comes down to. And those of you who are sitting out here who've got a public education, I think we know the value of it and the opportunities it provided for us. There is nothing fair about this. So some of the things that we've come up with, our recommendations, our number 1 recommendation is provide immediate relief to districts disproportionately impacted by ed vouchers. So we would be impacted to the tune of about $4 million. Hamilton's at about 3.2, or I'm sorry, Middletown's about 3.2. Hamilton's about 2.7. Lakota's a large amount, but they have a large budget, so it doesn't affect them. And it didn't leave any district alone. My point up here when I mention these schools is not to pick it. All I worry about is us. That's all I care about. But there's every type of school you can imagine in Butler County. You have the highest performing school in the state, and I apologize for my pronunciation, Solon or Solon. A's across the board. They have a school in Ed Choice. This was made by legislators whose kids go to parochial schools who wanted their tax dollars to help pay their tuition. Do I blame them because they are paying taxes? No. But is it fair to take it from a public school system and take our funds so they can. The other thing that really upsets me is I feel like it's segregation. These schools up north that are creating auxiliary schools, is that because you don't want the poverty white kids, the poverty African American kids, the students with disabilities in with your other kids? Is that really what they're saying by creating auxiliary schools? That's what we've talked about, and a lawsuit going against that. Because if you look at the letters local high schools have sent out, hey parents, we think this is a great way for you to get some of your money back. Don't worry, we're not changing our strict policy on how kids enter our school and what the requirements are, blah, blah, blah. And I've got copies of those letters if you'd like to see them. Jim sent me one the other day. What is the?
Fenwick.
Middletown Fenwick copied and pasted something. Ohio's failing schools, get your free money. I mean, seriously. And so they're taking money from schools who have passing. The other thing that I want to go back to is they went back to 13, 14. So maybe you did have a failing grade then. It doesn't matter if you improved and you went from a D to an A and a B. We had 24 schools who raised their hand that their school showed improvement, and they're on Ed Choice. The other thing that they snuck in there is once you're on Ed Choice, even if the school goes out, you get Ed Choice for the rest of the time you're in school. So that's $65,000 per student. 46, I'm not very good at math, but I believe 4650 times K through 8, and then 6,000 for 9, 10, 11, and 12 adds up to 65,000 and some change. So I am going to get with Lindsay first thing in the morning when I get in. We're going to send an email out with talking points, phone numbers or emails. We didn't want to do a form letter because they really don't read form letters, but I think this is a chance for our parents, our community to stand up for public education, to demand changes get made. I am hearing very good things. They have asked us to quit sending things up there. That's not going to happen. Show us that you're going to change and let us maintain our money. I have no problem with a person paying taxes, and this is personal, it doesn't represent the board's opinion, but if you pay taxes, yes, I can see why you would want money to send your parochial kid to school. But how can you justify taking it from a public school? That's the part I don't get. And then you hear the horror stories that are going on. Oh, don't worry, they'll get in our school. We'll open another auxiliary school and all the Ed Choice kids can go there. Really? This is 2019. That should not be possible. But those are some of the stories we're hearing. We're in constant contact. There is an emergency meeting Tuesday night, which is tomorrow night. The other thing is they planned this pretty well. So they're only in till the 17th and 18th of December, and then they're on a month-and-a-half recess. So they don't come back to January 27th and 28th. So once the emails and the social media blast go out tomorrow, students, I'm going to hit your English teachers up to have an assignment for you guys, because that's who it's affecting. I mean, think about it. If we lose $4 million, what has to be sacrificed? How do you as a taxpayer say, Northwest Local Schools, I'm going to pass a levy so the levy I pass can pay for kids to go to parochial schools? How are we ever going to pass a levy? It's not going to happen. So we have to be together on this. We have to be united on this. We have to have a front, and we need your help. And this is going to the taxpayers and everybody else, and let's get some justice from legislators who really didn't know what they were doing, and they will admit that to you. So we got to do it quickly. I would ask that you please have any communication out by the 17th or 18th. Please look for a email to come out tomorrow with talking points. Use them any way you want. There'll be phone calls. We'll basically have you call the legislators who live in our area, Lou Blessing, Bill Seitz, and I am forgetting the name of the new lady in Harrison. Cindy Abrams. So those are the three, plus Huffman, who put the bill in place. So he has admitted that he came out pretty stern through the Cleveland Plain Dealer with some articles, if you want to just Google Huffman, Cleveland Plain Dealer. But then he changed his tune after he found all the comments that are coming back. So I know a couple board members have been privy to this. Mark attended Butler County the other night with Amy and I when I did a presentation on what we're trying to offer as a suggestion to local superintendent. So that's what I have, and I just want everybody to be on the lookout for it.
Todd, Jim and I actually attended at the OSBA. They had a 2.5-hour session from legislation, and the same thing. There were 3 legislators sitting up there, and I mean, the Fairfield superintendent was just hammering them with questions. And they didn't know how to answer anything. In fact, I don't think they ever really fully answered anybody's question. And then at the end, the one gentleman, he was from Northern Ohio, he basically said, well, you need to go back to your districts and then let us know how much this is affecting your district. And it's like, wasn't that your job to know that before you voted on it? Or somebody that works for you, shouldn't they have done that? And you could tell by their body language and everything, they didn't have a clue. They just didn't have a clue. And that room was packed with people, and I do think this might be one of those times, if we all do this and contact all of them and not let it go, that hopefully it can make a difference. Because the other thing that's frustrating is, it's one thing if you send your kids to any school and then you try it and you're frustrated because they're not, you're not happy with the outcome of the education. But the fact that now they've changed it, that you don't ever have to have your child walk into any of these schools, but you can take that money with you. And you can take that money with you to a school that they don't have to take the same kind of tests that we do, right? Do the private schools get graded the same way we do? So it'll never be apples to apples to say, well, this is not a successful school and this one is. So,
And Pam, not to interrupt you, but if anybody here goes to ODE website and in the search bar type in charter school test results, you can pull up 2017 and 18, and they are not very good.
I did see the news tonight before I left, and there was actually a story on this they were covering. Again, it was up in Cleveland, but it is hitting the news all over the state. But it's interesting their timing, where they're going to be on vacation. They're going to be on vacation and then come back and vote. So scary.
How many, can I ask a question real quick? How many school districts have the same attitude that we have in Northwest?
So that's scary, Joe, and it was pretty eye-opening at one of our first meetings. There are a lot of treasurers and superintendents who are not even aware of EdChoice because they don't have parochial schools within their district, and it's not affecting them.
Okay.
So we spent some time last Thursday actually educating a couple folks on how EdChoice is hitting you. So it really depends on what parochial schools are around you and you have access to. So if you look at rurals, it's not as much as you would the urban or suburban.
Yeah, I was just wondering, 20 years ago, the state Supreme Court ruled that, as far as funding the schools, they ruled that the legislators needed to take a different route here. The problem I have with this, if we get enough of these school districts, urban school districts, in a class action suit, and I don't care what the legislators think about this whole thing, we gotta force this issue now. We gotta hit them in the face with this because we're losing out.
And what you're suggesting is one of the long-term solutions. What we're looking at is a lawsuit against the state because we are still unconstitutionally funded.
But if we force the issue and it goes to state Supreme Court, they're gonna read the history of this whole thing, and they're gonna say,
Right.
maybe we will rule in favor of these guys
Yeah,
again.
we're looking for more of a short-term fix where, one, you require that they must have attended your school district in order to get it, or two, they pay for every scholarship, which we believe would be about 68 million this year and a lot next year.
So a clarification point, you mentioned for high school, you never had to attend the school to
Correct.
But for elementary school and middle school, you had to.
Last year you did, but now every school, you do not have to have attended either school.
So if this goes through February, for elementary school, middle school, and high school,
Yes.
you do not have necessarily.
And that's where we came up with guesstimating our 4 million, 4.4, anywhere from 3.4 to 4.4, just depends.
To take advantage
You
of
also
that.
have to apply for the scholarship, and why we're trying to beat that February 1st is that's when the application process begins. Now, they have told us they could put a stay in place and back that all the way up to the end of March if needed. I think they're gonna do something before we go on Christmas break, is my gut. But we gotta make sure they do by writing letters and calling.
And so my next question or point is, 100% I support the asking the community, and I hope the community does support the effort as far as approaching the state specifically for this Ed Choice thing, but on the same token, this is a similar effort that the community was looking for when the state was found unconstitutional to funding the schools in the first place, that when we're at the 40% and we weren't actually receiving the 40% from the state, this type of everybody together, send letters to the lobbyists, I hope that you simultaneously or have another opportunity to also have a plan to approach the state on that specific thing. Because that point actually goes back to the levy that needs to be passed. We're requesting the community to support the school districts and increase the levy, large in part because we're having to close that gap that we're not receiving from the state and, other areas, but part of it does include that. So I would hope that the school district and the administration would take the same tenacity and same approach on getting the lobbying to the state on their not contributing the funds to the school district like they stated, and how that's unconstitutional.
And Amy is on that committee and has been pushing very hard. So we will continue that and ramp it up even more because that is if that gets fixed in the long term, then this funding solution kind of goes away. So yes, we will very much so.
Yeah, so those are two state things, but even bringing it back home a lot closer, I also would like to see, this is the third reach the community or come together, or definitely support from the administration and the board, is more locally the sidewalk issue. This is something that we can approach to Colerain Township, to Springfield Township, and the Green Township. Our children's safety. We are talking about the people walking now. They have the funds, and they have some programs, and I've seen the slide, and these are the top 10 that we're looking to work on, but actually no action is coming forth, or nothing is, progressing in any type of timely manner. And I know we've heard 1,000 times, I'm hearing, this takes time, but I'm saying, we don't have time. Since my kids have been here, and I moved into the district 2001, they haven't been sized as well it's been, and I don't think there's ever been. So many students have passed through this district and have walked in the streets and walked in the streets and walked in the streets. And having the same community approach, going directly to the Colerain Township trustees, the Springfield Township trustees, as well as the Green, and saying, we need these sidewalks. I would like to see the same type of approach that we mentioned for this Ed Choice, that type of approach to those township trustees and saying, we need these sidewalks in place.
I would agree, and since you brought up sidewalks, do you guys mind if I talk a little bit about them? So there is a big meeting tomorrow night for the trustees. It will be to discuss the actual funding of sidewalks and some ideals they have. And the 3 trustees will actually vote on a possible license increase that would go per license in Colerain Township. So it would raise $300,000. We met with Jeff Mills last week, Chris and Amy and I. We talked about grants that we can write. We had Hamilton County at the table. And we have found more grants that we can go after, and we are doing that and working immediately as hard as we can. So I'm on board with you. I will give a better update at the January meeting to see what happens tomorrow night at the township meeting, but they're asking for parents or anyone concerned about sidewalks to please show up because it would take a 2 out of 3 trustee vote in order to pass the sidewalk provision that they're trying to do by putting a $5 additional fee on every license plate in Colerain Township.
So it's the same emails that are coming from Lindsay on Ed Choice, also to the unconstitutional funding for the state, and also more locally for sidewalks. The same approach we're taking on this, the community has definitely come to the board, even before I was on, and definitely while I was here, on this is a concern for the community, but also showing that this is how we're supporting them. I just hope that you also take into consideration that specific point.
Yes. Last thing I have is, Diane, thank you for your service. I thank Michael and Chris as they left last time, and I'd like to thank you for everything you've done. You're leaving your family to be here. You've dedicated to the kids and students, and it's greatly appreciated for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Okay, we'll move to community comments. If anybody has a question of anything that was discussed during the meeting, then come up here.
Hello. I have 3 comments. My first one is for Diane. I want to thank you for all that you did while you were on the school board. I want to thank you for being a voice for most of the community and always being true to yourself, no matter what pushback you might have got. I just want to thank you for that.
Thank you.
Secondly, the Butler Tech board meeting, I know this is all about you guys. However, I try to come to at least one board meeting a month, and just look, it's 8:15 right now. I was home for 15 minutes. And so to ask a parent to drive all the way to Butler Tech for a meeting that starts at 6:30, that probably will not end till 8:30, and then they have to drive home, it's asking a lot, especially, and right now I'm on leadership for 3 different things, and I'm willing to look at changing things. Just because you do it in the past does not mean that it's something that you have to continue to do in the future. And if you want more members to be there, like you said, there's not many here. It's probably gonna be less driving out to Butler Tech. And I like what Todd said and Mark said, make it a working session where you guys get to do it, and if people wanna come, they can, but don't make it a set board meeting. Thirdly, I liked your idea, Todd, of reaching out to the senators, and I will be on board about that. I would just suggest that, I know you said talking points, but can you also have a script for people? Because a lot of people are more willing to do something if they know exactly what they want to say or email.
Yes.
Okay, that is all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Zoe Bloom. I'm a student at Northwest High School. So basically, what you guys said about having like that Tuesday off before Thanksgiving break and why it was needed, and we should already be like trained on this. Like teachers are trained on what to do of a school shooting or like a lockdown, but they are not trained on what to do like if it's at dismissal, because that's not something that you can just expect. Happened at 2:50, nobody knows what to do if it happens at dismissal. Like, we need it that day, because like, I'm like, it's scary to get a text, hey, we're on lockdown. There's a shooting near the school. We don't know what's going on. Nobody knows what to do at dismissal, because it's not something you can train for. And that's what the day was for. That was to go over all these stuff, and teachers went over it. When we came back from break, that's the first thing we did. They showed us the PowerPoint that they were shown. But we needed it because they are trained, but they needed the refresher because that's not something to expect. Nobody knew what to do.
Thank you.
I'm Brittany, and I just wanted to talk about the Butler Tech meeting as well. I am a mom of a student in Butler Tech, currently at Corey High School in the criminal justice program. And I have been coming to the board meetings, and I did not attend that one. Simple fact, like the last lady said, you get home for 10, 15 minutes and then have to drive up there. It's just too much. Especially I have 2 other littler ones as well to try to take care of before coming to a board meeting. Also, with not having much of a turnout at Struble, I heard Struble thrown up a couple of times. There's no communication at Struble. There is a lot going down right now that I'm not going to averse to say right now. But when it comes out, it'll come out. With my students in particular, just how they talked about the kids' involvement and how you didn't want to be A and you wanted to be B. Teachers are pushing back, saying that it's the child's problem and not the teacher's problem. That is an issue in itself, right there. I'm experiencing that. I have emails on that. The Northwest is not for the student. And how 2 of your board members, like for Butler Tech, were on board to change it. One was a partial, but 2 other ones didn't want to do it. And you're trying to say that you're for the kids? You guys aren't. You're not.
I didn't say I didn't want to do it. If we want to do a work session, we can discuss it.
I'm still speaking.
I know.
So, just with, the Butler Tech and how you had it at Struble and nobody came, well, there was no communication that you guys had a meeting there, to be honest, because I didn't get anything in the mail, or in the folder, which is what they call their mail. And their folder's home saying that there's a meeting, and I'm on
all the emails from all schools. So,
We'll work on that for sure. We should have got something.
that's all.
Thank you.
Thank you. Todd, you come out with a finalized version of
Anybody else?
meetings and stuff. Okay, thanks.
We're actually, if we. Here we go.
Chairperson Pro Tempore.
It just threw me off because we usually do that in January. Okay, for our January meeting, for our organizational meeting, we need to appoint the acting chairperson for the pro tem just to get it started, and then once the election of the officers, then the new president will take over.
Historically, it's been the presiding president.
It has, and typically it's always that date, this threw me off a little bit. We're just doing it ahead of time.
Can we nominate somebody other than the president for that position?
If you want to, alls it is gonna start the next
Well,
meeting.
it's a start.
The summary is and not a recommendation. You have to fill in the blank for every recommend. That was just what has happened in the past. So you can put anybody you want.
Well, can I verbally nominate somebody then?
Sure.
I'd like to nominate Mark Gilbert as the chairperson pro tem.
Second.
Okay.
I can't get out the vote. I should be here. So we're gonna vote?
So
Oh,
moved.
they already did.
So we voted on
So,
this?
I did, he said.
Are there any other?
No, this is,
I'm fine. I don't care.
No, let Mark do it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so we're gonna vote.
Mark will be the chairperson pro tem. We will now go to other board comments. Joe?
Okay, 2 weeks ago, I took my annual bus ride through the fine district. I don't need a chiropractor, Todd, not this time, but it was enlightening. And I wish a few of the other board members would involve themselves with that. Also, I attended the White Oak Middle School Safety and Security in service for all the students, or the staff, and I'll tell you what, I was very impressed with Kevin and the deputy, Kevin being the principal over there, and the deputy sheriff. It was a very, very wonderful meeting as far as getting the information to some of the teachers, because they didn't know. They just didn't know. And the explanation of the EAC, the Employee Access Center, that was unbelievable. So I had a good time.
Diane?
what do we now, or is it okay. So this is my last meeting as a board member, and this has been an opportunity I never thought that, I learned a lot more from this than I ever thought I would. There, a lot goes on behind the scenes, and, sharing with the community what's going on as much as possible. But this opportunity is great. I wish I had the opportunity to continue to serve you, and I do use that word serve as intently, because the items that I would present up here are not necessarily 100% just Diane Bradley and her thoughts and what she was thinking. They actually, in a large part, were the voice of the community or representing some who were voiceless. I know up until the point that I actually came on the board, there was a lot of the same comments or a lot of the same voting or a lot of the same rhetoric. And I've attended board meetings as a community member myself, and it just seemed like very mundane. It was just like everything they say is yes, 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 yes. When I came on it, without question, it's a different approach. You heard a lot of questions, hopefully heard a lot of different viewpoints. And that's something that I pride myself in, and I really thank those who supported that. It was not easy making the decisions of, or making the comments that I have or the stances on some things that I did, but it was something that needed to do. This job is not meant to be easy. I took this position as a board member very seriously and was more than willing to make the hard decisions and have the hard approach with it. To the community, again, I thank you for your support up to this point, but I further want to challenge you to challenge the board that will be sitting here tomorrow or in the future. It's not about what they're saying, but about what they're actually doing. You know, I can run through my resume as a board member of the things that I did, places I went to, the people I met with, where I was actually. I did not just sit here once a month or twice a month and just click the button and that was the end of my board meeting in any way, shape, or form. I had a lot going on outside of this. So I definitely would challenge the community for those that you choose to support in the future, of asking what are they actually doing for you, because that's ultimately what they're here for. And also, how are they representing you? And is your voice being heard from the members that are being up here? So that in closing, I really just want to truly and sincerely thank you for allowing me to sit here and going through this journey with me. And it has been a journey that I will never forget, and I'm very happy that I got a chance to go through it. So thank you.
Thank you.
First of all, I just want to say thank you, Diane. I've enjoyed our conversations. I've enjoyed I've enjoyed your explanation of viewpoints that I may or may not have had. So I really do value the input that you brought to the board, and I wish you the very best in what's next in your life. I just want to welcome Matt T-Sort. We'll see you next month, swear you in, so get ready for that. Ride starts then. I want to speak to the Northwest incident that occurred a couple weeks ago. I remember, not that I've been on the board a long time, but last year I went to a PTA meeting, and this is right after, I believe, the Florida shooting. And I was talking to several of the teachers, and I'd venture to say the educators did not get into, didn't go to college to become an educator to figure out how to protect a child from a gun incident or anything like that. There's an immense amount of trauma involved when you, and this occurred during dismissal. So it's basically like opening the door and letting the cats out, and then you're trying to gather all the cats and bring them back in the building. I can't imagine the fear that these people had who feel 100% responsible for your children, the fear that they had to try to rally these kids back in and get them in some type of safe situation. So accolades to them. I agree 100% with Todd. I think there's almost, you need to do a debrief. I work in the medical field. When we have an incident that occurs, we always do either a root cause analysis or a debrief. Actually, we do both. Because even though there are things that occur, there's always ways of being better. So I think, and Zoe, thank you for getting up and speaking on that part. Because I think there was a lot of trauma, and I think as a district, the teachers at Northwest needed to be supported by the other teachers in the district as well as all the other team members. I was lucky enough to go to the Butler County, Hamilton County meeting with Todd and Amy last Wednesday. It was refreshing to see, it was a large group of people, and the impact on this choice is just substantial. I was actually invigorated to see people that enthusiastic, and one of the things coming in and not being a career educator or being in public education is I'm just amazed at how bad public education gets beat up by the state. It just is amazing to me. And I hope that, Diane, to your point, hopefully this will create some type of momentum to where we quit getting victimized and we actually start grabbing the reins of this thing and start making some headway with it. And lastly, I just want to wish everybody a safe holiday. have fun, and enjoy your families.
Jim?
Mark couldn't have said it any better with the incident over at Northwest High School. And I got plenty of calls, people appreciating, hey, taking that day off just to kind of settle back down, get them, you know, just go over what you do at that time. But like you said, when you come out at dismissal and you have 1,000 kids coming out the doors, you know, what do you do? So I appreciate that they did that. Todd, the Ed Choice discussion, I was right on. I mean, it's point blank telling them how it is, how it's going to hurt public education. I was talking to a buddy of mine that's on the Monroe board, and it's going to affect them 25% of their budget. I mean, you know, they're a much smaller school district, but 25% of your budget could go out the window because of this decision by legislators that didn't know what they were voting on. And when we were up in Columbus at that OSBA meeting, and those three legislators were sitting there like, they never answered one question anybody had for 2 hours. You know, they always wanted to throw it back at the school district. Look, you guys voted on it. You knew what the consequences were. So, I'm glad that now our district, the community, understands what's on the line here with these Ed Choice decisions. And then, want to welcome Matt and Diane. Thank you for your time on the board, and appreciate it.
Okay, couple things. Thank you, Diane. I look forward to, I know you'll still stay involved and be at the meetings. And I think we've had some good conversations as well, and I do appreciate everything you do. Matt, welcome you, and looking forward to getting to know you and working together. The Ed Choice thing, definitely, I hope that's something, I mean, as a levy, I think the community came together, and I hope we can build on that and move quickly with this Ed Choice, and do whatever we can to try to make some changes here. Quite honestly, I'd be in favor of taking another day off school and all of us go, every school district, show up in Columbus, and then see what those legislators do. When all of a sudden they have to shut down the streets of Columbus because there's so many students and teachers and administrators up there wanting answers from these politicians that say they don't know what they're voting on, and I don't honestly know if that's true or not. But the fact is they voted on it, and it's jeopardizing 400 and some odd school districts in this state. I want to wish everybody a Merry Christmas. Looking forward to a Happy New Year. I know we still have some athletic teams in both of actually in the middle schools and the high schools that are playing, so I want to wish them good luck, just like the swim team that's going up to Canton. I always think that's a great opportunity for kids to get especially you're a swimmer and you get to swim in the meet, the pool that's where the state meet is. That's really neat that the coaches are taking them up there. So safe trip to them, and hopefully we don't have any bad weather. And we are going to move into executive session. You're welcome to stay. We will not be taking any action afterwards, other than to adjourn the meeting.
So the move is for executive session. The board will approve motion to move into executive session to consider the appointment, employment, dismissal, discipline, promotion, demotion, or compensation of public employee or official. The superintendent recommends that the Board of Education approve the motion to move into executive session as listed.
So moved.
Second?
It's been moved and seconded. Any questions? Okay.
I can't hear you.
Motion passed 5-0.
My post.